Welcome to the 34% podcast, where we provide practical advice, truth, and thoughts on everything and anything for those students who want to be a part of the 34% that stay in the church after graduation.
Hey y'all, thanks for checking out the 34% podcast. So this week we're actually going to be talking about something a little unique, and we're discussing this earlier at the beach, but my name's Matt, just to begin.
And I'm Lauren.
So yes, she's my lovely wife, and we were at the beach with family. I don't know, what did you think of the beach vacation?
Oh, it was great. It was so much fun being with all the nieces and nephews. There's like 8 of them, I think.
Yeah,
there's 7. There will be 8 because we have one on the way with Kelsey and Nate. So yeah, we're really excited for another nephew, and yeah, it was so relaxing. It was just really fun. It was a great time with family. So
yeah, and I feel like whenever you're at the beach, sometimes you're looking out into the waves, and this has happened to us probably both times because we went to the beach for our honeymoon. But we're looking at the waves, and we just think, what's our future hold? What are our dreams? And so that was like the first thing that kind of came to mind. And as we were driving back from North Carolina, I was thinking, what are our dreams? But then the question kind of came up, what are the craziest dreams that we've had? So first I kind of want to answer that is like, what is the craziest dream that you've had? Or some of the top 3 or more that you can think of. So yeah, if you want to answer that.
Well, one that I had while we were at the beach was getting attacked by jellyfish, because there were all these different types of jellyfish. What were they called? It was
man-o'-wars.
Yeah, man-o'-wars. And they kept like washing up on the beach, and so this guy was like coming around and telling people like, hey, watch out, like these are like, they're very like painful. I'd like, just telling people like, hey, watch out, like they're kids and all of that.
Makes sense.
So anyway, I had this dream that I was like in the ocean, and I was getting attacked by all these jellyfish, and they were all different colors, and their little stingers were like attached to me, and I couldn't get them off, and it was like felt very real. It was very painful. And so then I woke up and I like screamed when I like woke up. I was like, "Ah!" So
I didn't even.
Yeah, you didn't even hear me, but that did happen. And so yeah, then another dream that I had as a child that I had probably like 5 times, I would say, is when I like dreamt that I was going to my grandma's house, like in this cabin, and I was like going on her porch and like talking to her, and then all of a sudden like we see this fox and he like runs up and attacks us and bites my hand, like my wrist. And then I wake up, and I've had this dream like 5 times at
That's
least.
The weirdest recurring
I know,
dream.
and it felt so real, and it was so painful. And then I had another dream in high school. Actually, my friend Faith, she's had this same dream, so I'm sure it's happened to multiple women. But
it's all those like young Christian girls.
Yeah, so I had a dream that I was like the next Virgin Mary. So I was like pregnant, and I was a virgin, and I like had a baby, and it was crazy. And I was like in high school, and
I've never
like,
had that dream.
Yeah, it was terrible. So it was like a huge fear of mine that somehow I was going to get pregnant. And yeah, so those were like some of the ones that I can remember. But a lot of my dreams, I like remember them the next morning, and then they're gone, and like they disappear. So I really don't remember a lot more dreams that I've had.
I've never had the dream that I'm either the Virgin Mary nor Joseph. I feel like I kind of would like that dream though, because he was a carpenter. So it'd be kind of cool to be like, oh, I'm the man of making wood objects. I don't know what he does. Carpentry, So anyway, well, I have a few dreams. So mine are a little bit more in depth. I've actually kept a thing called a dream journal. Have you ever done that in your life?
No, I really should though, because then I like could look back on the dreams that I've had, because I can't remember any of them.
And I feel like you might like get into a spiritual gifts thing. I feel like you sometimes have like you could easily have like a vision gift or something like that.
Prophetic,
because you have like prophetic things going on sometimes. So I could see like if you kept a list, maybe you'd be like, so maybe one day you'll be bit by a fox, and you'll be like, this is what this was.
I think that's a great idea though, to do a dream.
So yeah,
journal.
well, I kept like kind of a dream journal. I was really good at it for like a month, basically. Actually, not even that, probably like a week. And in that week, I had like these random dreams that were very vivid. And I'm one that's like a lucid dreamer, I think is what it's called, where you can like dream and know that you're in a dream. And so I'm like able to know that I'm in a dream and like recognize that.
That's
but at
kind
the
of
same
a cool
time,
feeling, like when you know you're in a dream.
Yeah, it's like, it is cool. It's like, I think it was cool the first time it happened, and then, or the first few times it was happening, now it's just like, oh, cool. And actually, I don't think I do it as much anymore. But when I was younger, I definitely like knew that I'd be dreaming. But anyway, so I'll get to some of the weirder ones. But one that I noticed I had, and this one's a little bit sadder, so it's okay though. Mm-hmm. The first one was that there was this catastrophic tornado or tsunami or some lightning storm that like happened, and so like I was like in the dream, and you see like these waves are coming in, and at one point I was left seeing like everyone that I love, so like all these people that I love, everyone I know, and they're all like about to die potentially, and I don't know, so like there's these giant waves coming in like a tsunami or something, and they're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? So millions of people were gone in like a second, and I was in this helicopter from like a bird's eye view watching. And so like I guess this helicopter like lands or something, and I realized that I was at Liberty, and Liberty, if you've ever been to Liberty University, there is no tsunami area potential there. It's surrounded by mountains, so and there's no like water. But anyway, I was like at Liberty, and all my brothers were there, and they were doing different things. So for some reason, Liberty was like next to the ocean, but I landed, and after seeing like these gigantic buildings like sucked up, and like hearing only like an eighth of the world survived or something. That's like I remember that was what I was like hearing. It's like only an eighth survived. I was like freaking out, but I ran over to the coast, and I saw like this giant, huge cruise ship was like left over, and I went to look for my family, and I was like my heart, it was breaking, and I was looking around, and I was like, where's my family? But I kept singing the song Cinderella. I don't know if you remember that song by Stephen Curtis Chapman. Classic Steve Chap, Stephen Curtis. But I was singing that song, and I remembered that I was actually listening to that song while sleeping, so it all stemmed from that. Like, the sadness of this dream came from that, but it was while I was taking like a nap, so weird time. Anyway, I kept coming across like these different family members, so like my brothers, and they'd be like ministering to others, and I gave them like a huge hug, and I'd be like, good job, like keep going, and I'd move on. So I like saw Adam playing guitar on the wall. He was like next to a shrub. I saw Nate, he was like playing his box drum or the cajon on the lower deck, and it's like half sunk in the water, and he was on the edge of the water. And then we all came together, and we would sing, like, to these passerbys. We were singing the song Cinderella. So it's, like, not even, like, a super Christian song. It's, like, just a sad song about a guy missing his daughter. And, like, that's what I'm singing. But anyway, so tears and hugs were all around, and I found my siblings, and so everyone was okay. But I felt so broken for all those around me. And my siblings and I, like, we didn't say a word to each other. We just, like, looked at each other with tears in our eyes. And we just, like, felt sad, but we accepted what happened. So then it like zooms out, and like I saw the destruction of everything. So it's kind of like a movie, but it was kind of cool. I don't know what would happen, but anyway. Whoa. Then the second dream I had was I was in West Virginia, and so this was the time when I used to work for a camp, and so I had a team of about 24 other people or 23 other people that we would go different places, and so most of the people on that team for some reason were in this dream. And they had come to my home back in West Virginia, and we were going over some papers that we had to write for a class. And I remembered that. And we were going over these papers, and then suddenly all the papers were gone, and I was being blamed for messing around, and we needed to get these papers back. And I was like, oh man, I need to go get these papers. So I suspected that for some reason my dad took the papers because, he likes reading. I don't know if you know anything about the Enneagram, but he's an introvert. He likes to read, so why would he not want to read all these college kids' papers? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, oh, Dad, I'm going to go to the basement in hopes of finding them. And when I got down there, I see the papers, but then like there's this clown, and he's called the Friar. So like Fryer. So I don't know why I knew how to spell it back then, but I did. It's the Friar. And he started attacking me, and his like goal was to punch me, so I kept like running around from him. And so like a minute later, I was running upstairs, and he grabbed me, and he got above me, and he was about to like curb stomp me, and I was like holding his foot, so I started tickling his foot, and it made him like freak out and like collapse.
That's what you would have done.
I know, and I would have collapsed too if that was me. Yeah. My feet are super ticklish. But anyway, so I tickled his feet, and he like collapses, and then he gets arrested, and while he's being arrested, he turns into a kitten, and I was like, okay, and he started to cry as a kitten, and I woke up, and I was really confused. Whoa. So, Yeah,
the clown is terrifying.
The clown was terrifying. It was unique. But then my third dream, and this was the one that it stuck out of all of them. I was on a pirate ship, and I was undercover as a prisoner, and this other dude was acting as a crew member, and I was trying to do something or sabotage this ship in some way. So it looked like this classical ship, like back with the colonial people when they'd go around with those old, huge, like, what were those? Mayweather? Is that some?
Mayflower?
Mayflower. I don't know why I thought Mayweather. But I was thinking Merryweather or something. Anyway, Mayflower. So it was like a ship like that. And there were these two wood walls that were in the middle of the deck. So like prisoners would be able to face out to the sea, but we wouldn't see each other. And every few minutes, like not all at once, like so we would avoid detection. But I would grab a piece or two, and I would flip over like some random thing, and under the ship where I was hiding, like it would flip up a board, and I'd try to get under it. So I'd be hiding underneath the ship. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm thinking of it visually.
Yeah.
But I was placing these parts to the ship and putting them underneath this hold, and hoping that the ship would sink. And I think my objective was to get like the arc or something and have the ship sink. And I don't know why, but that was just in my mind that I thought this would be a good idea. And so after so many tries, I had the last piece, and this like happened over the whole night. So I mean like hours of this dream. I had this last piece, and I was ready to put it in the arc below. And then like the ship hit some rough waters, and I almost I got thrown off the ship. I almost drowned. I was like fighting for my life, and through like an intense scene, I survived, got back into position, and without being found out. And so like we landed on this mysterious island after that, and I had some random like mermaid like people that were going to be evil when we found them. But so like I knew that these mermaids were coming up, and I was like remembering that they were coming up, and we landed on this island, and I knew because I'd been there before. So as I was walking, I stepped in a puddle, and this little fish, he bit me and latched onto my foot. And I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, but I haven't either. But for some reason, my mind thought I've had it happen because it felt very real. And I couldn't get him off. And then another fish thing, like an octopus, did the same thing, but on the other foot. And so I'm like walking around with these fish on my feet, and these fish things, they started to like fight one another while they're on my feet. And then they engulfed like my whole foot. And then randomly, they both disappeared, and I assumed they destroyed each other and that my feet were fine. And then on the way to this mermaid village, I woke up. But I fell back asleep. And so I then had this dream start up again, and I was going to the mermaid village, except now I was with all of the same people that were with me during that friar dream, all those people at camp.
Oh.
And we all got lost, and we were driving in this like 15-passenger van. And my brother Nate, for some reason, was driving, and this other girl was with him, and she was like making sure that he was taking the right turns. But we stopped so I could get a signal for my GPS because we were in the middle of nowhere. And then like our leader of the camp, he explained what we were doing. And so I was like overjoyed because we were going whitewater rafting down a crazy river while going down this huge wooden contraption that looked like a ship from another dream. And I was remembering all the time that happened before I woke up. So if that makes sense, it doesn't. And I don't know how you followed it, because it was just like such a crazy dream of so many things happening. And I don't know if you've ever had a dream like that, but that literally is what my dreams are like. So, yeah, anyway, those are my dreams. But
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I love how much detail that you remember. And if you can't tell, Matt is an incredible storyteller. So
not for those stories. That story was like crazy. I was like trying to I was reading along with what I wrote, and I was like, this is crazy. I don't even understand where I'm going with this. But I remembered I read to you what was in my journal, in my dream journal. So that's what apparently I remembered when I woke up immediately. So because you remember them right when you wake up, but you forget them like 10 minutes later. So
yeah.
So yeah. like that's our ideas about dreams. I mean, when we go to bed and when we sleep, those dreams. But there's definitely a difference between probably dreams and visions, and like visions of the future, dreams that we will have. Like, man, I can't wait for that to happen. So I don't know. What do you think toward that, or do you have any ideas of how would you define a difference between like a dream and a vision?
Well, I feel like
I'm putting you on the spot. So
I feel like with a vision, I don't know. I feel like with dream, this could be the same way, but let's see. So with vision, I feel like the Lord can clearly give someone a vision, like prophetically too. I guess he could do that too with like a dream, but I feel like a vision is like very much like of the Lord. I think there's like a difference there. But he can also place dreams in our heart and like desires to, start a school, like start an orphanage. But I think there's like certain specific times where he like clearly defines it and like gives vision to that dream. Yeah.
So like more of the meat. Like the dream is just kind of like an idea in the future, and then like the vision is like, oh, that's what's taking me.
Yeah, you can actually see it. And,
I agree,
and he kind of lays it out for you.
Well, I think there's definitely more to that idea of what a vision is or dream is, as well as like maybe even more of the idea of what we dream about, meaning not just like nighttime dreams, but like future dreams, where we're going to go, and we can dig into that in another episode because we're running short on time, but. One thing I did want to start up, and we were thinking of what new ways could we do this segment, and we were like, what new ways could we do this podcast? And one of those ideas was coming up with a thing called Weekly Wisdom from Lauren. And so from our Weekly Wisdom from Lauren, she was going through, what was it, 2 Corinthians?
Yeah.
So she was working through 2 Corinthians, and why don't you tell us about what you kind of discovered? What's this wisdom you have for us this week?
Yeah, so I think too, actually, it kind of goes along with dreams and vision, because that was what we were kind of talking about at the beach this week. But I have really felt attacked in a lot of ways with my abilities and my confidence in just who I am and my gifts and where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I was really struggling with that this week and just struggling with my job and where I'm at. And just frustrated with myself and just having a lot of lies from the enemy with that. So I read this verse, 2 Corinthians 5, and it says, "It is not that we are competent in ourselves to claim anything as coming from ourselves, but our adequacy is from God." So that last part, our adequacy is from God, really stood out to me, and it was so powerful when I read it, because I was like, oh, it was like this switch. It was like, oh, I don't have to be, like another word for that, like our sufficiency is from God. And so I don't have to be confident in my own abilities and my own like self and like my own, like I don't have to be confident in my knowledge or my skills and all of that, because all of that is from the Lord. Like my adequacy is from God. And so like Paul is like realizing that in this passage, that like he's saying, like he refers to the absolute confidence that he has like in his, like in ministry of representing Christ is from God. And so he makes it clear that this is not a confidence built on like the belief of himself, but that his confidence is from the Lord. So yeah, it was just a huge encouragement to me and reminder of how like my sufficiency is from the Lord. And I think that like feeling competent or incompetent is something that I really struggle with. That's like one of my like biggest fears and insecurities, is like not feeling, like just feeling stupid. I think a lot of people probably would be upset if they felt that way, but that's just something that I've struggled with, but realizing that my adequacy is from the Lord. So
yeah, that's really good. And we're running low on time, so actually what we probably will do is start a part 2 of this. So we'll actually probably just like stop the episode and pick up on it, because I have a lot more thoughts since you brought all those up. I think those are really good, but just kind of leave it there, is to realize our identity is in the Lord. And I love that. Our sufficiency is in the Lord. And remembering that our sufficiency and that every part of who we're identified as children of God. We're identified as friends of Christ. We're identified as so many different things. If you're actually more interested in some of this, I have a lot of content on it because I've talked about this a lot with the youth. So if you're interested, shoot me an email at matt@visitlegacy. I'd love to talk to you more about it. But if you have more questions, things like that, we'd love to hear from you and love to talk more about it. But we're actually going to pick up on this episode again in part 2. So listen up, and maybe next week when we post it again for part 2, you can keep listening in and kind of follow along again with what we have. But thanks so much for tuning in so far. But we're literally just going to hit pause and then start right up again. My name is Matt.
And I'm Lauren.
And this is the 34% Podcast.